Welcome in to the Boys Collective episode number 18. It is Cowboys Chiefs game preview show right here on 105 through the fan. Of course, my name is Kevin Gray, alongside Super Bowl winning scout at 1/4 of the G-Bag Nation, Bryan Broaddus. Bryan, good to see you on this Friday. How we doing?
Doing well, KG. Doing well. Thank you. Love being with you as always. And a huge game this weekend in your old stomping ground. So got to be excited about that.
Yeah, this game has a personal feel for it for me. Folks who don't know, I was born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri. So this is as a Cowboys fan and someone who obviously covers this team, having a chance to see them play in my hometown is interesting nonetheless, for sure. You can find us on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. You can find Bryan on Twitter at Bryan Broaddus, and make sure you subscribe to 105 through the fan here on YouTube, and find us on all of our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and also on Instagram at 105.3 The Fan. Let's just jump right in. The Cowboys at 7-2, Bryan, taking on a Kansas City Chiefs team 6-4 on the season, who defensively have been playing pretty well as of late, only giving up 12 points on average in their 3 straight wins that the Chiefs have. They have the number 10 scoring offense in the NFL. Meanwhile, the Dallas Cowboys, the number 1 scoring offense, the number 1 total offense in the NFL. But a change on the offensive line for the Cowboys, which you have been discussing over the last couple of days. Jerry Jones making it official today, as we record this on Friday on the KNC Masterpiece, that Connor McGovern will get the start in place of Connor Williams at the left guard position, which means that most likely Tyron Smith, which we think he will be available to play on Sunday also, Bryan, we will not see the combination that we thought we've been wanting to see all season long. Your thoughts on Connor McGovern officially being named the starter at left guard in place of Connor Williams going into Sunday?
Yeah, KG, I started hearing about this really. Todd Archer and I from ESPN had a discussion. Todd was nice enough to come on air with us, and we were kind of kicking it back and forth about, is it something he goes, it's something I know, that kind of thing. So we were kind of going back and forth and, trying to really confirm, we don't only get to watch like the 15 minutes of practice. So you really sometimes, Mike McCarthy is very mindful of that. It goes back to his Packer days when Joe Webb was a quarterback. They thought that Christian Ponder was going to start a game, and the Vikings did a great job of disclosing, or at least keeping, not disclosing, but hiding the fact that Joe Webb was going to start, and it completely surprised the Packers. So that kind of goes back to where Mike McCarthy, kind of talks about some things there. I mean, he believes that, you can have a competitive advantage here. And so, they were trying to keep things quiet, and Todd and I were working on it. And late last night, I was driving home from our show in Fort Worth, and I had a guy confirm to me that, yes, they were in fact, Connor McGovern was going to play left guard. And then again, like you mentioned this morning, Jerry Jones confirming that. So, yeah, I mean, it was, and I think this is really about KG, about maybe it's more than the penalties. I think it's one of those things where, they just, the penalties are bad. And, are you going to coach that out of him? Are you going to get better at it? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Are you going to be able to, to function, and not make mistakes? I just don't think that they can go in there. There are flaws for Connor McGovern. There's no question. Connor McGovern can get a holding call in this game. Heck, he got a holding call last week. But I think it was just one of those things where it's just like, we can't take that chance. And we, being the Dallas Cowboys, in these games, these next 3 games, I mean, these are huge games, in my opinion. And you can't have a 28-yard pass play and it coming back because of a holding call, or a chop block or something, that, offensive linemen have bad technique. They miss blocks. That's all part of it. But, when you start to have 3 penalties in a game, that's just too much. And, they probably think, well, let's try and prevent that. I mean, I always say with these offensive linemen, grade 70 plays. If 5 of them are really bad, well, then you've got to make your determination. There's a lot of teams don't have the ability to plug in a Connor McGovern or plug in a Terrence Steele or plug in somebody to make these changes. And unfortunately for the Cowboys, they do, but it really was starting to bother them. And again, I just think that there's these games are too important down the stretch, and you cannot give up plays because you get caught for holding or chop block or tripping or anything else that Connor Williams could probably do.
So that means that Connor McGovern will get the start at left guard, which is interesting because the Cowboys, of course, are in the middle of a terrific season offensively. Is this a situation where Joe Philbin, Mike McCarthy, who has talked about, McCarthy specifically, about continuity and the importance of having that continuity, as that's something that has, I won't say changed, but is it just more of a specific situation based on what they feel like they could potentially get out of McGovern versus what Williams has given them so far?
Continuity is a buzzword that coaches like to use, and they really don't want to explain why they're doing something. And this offensive line has been far from continuity. They wanted to tell us continuity when we were all standing in Oxnard, asking about, well, when are we going to see Tyron Smith? Well, when are we going to see Lyle Collins? When are we going to see Zach Martin? When all those things. Continuity went out the window when all of a sudden one of the continuity pieces was not playing very well. And, they have not played a game this season with the starting 5 offensive linemen that they projected in Oxnard. Just haven't done it. And we're at week 11 in the season, and we might not see. And unless Connor McGovern goes out there and just throws up a big egg, I don't see him getting his job. I don't see Connor Williams getting his job back. And so, but Connor McGovern played really well. You remember he stepped in for Zach Martin against Tampa Bay, and Cowboys put up some huge numbers in the game. So this is something that they obviously feel like now, is he better on the left side or the right side? Those are the questions. But it always is a nice thing if you can play guard and you have Tyron Smith to your left side right there to kind of help you along the way in case you need it.
Final note on the Connor Williams switch with Connor McGovern to left guard. Connor Williams is in the final year of his rookie contract. Yeah. He will be an unrestricted free agent after the end of this season. So not only ramifications for him personally as far as playing in this lineup, but also in going into a very uncertain future where I think there were already questions coming into this season about his coming back to this team next year. That now that much more in the air now based on this switch, I would think by this. We very well could see, if this doesn't work, we could very well see, could you see Lyle Collins moving the left guard and then also Terrence Steele moving back to right tackle. And then you might have your 2022 Dallas Cowboy offensive line with Smith, Collins, Broaddus, Martin, and Steele. That might be something that we see, if things don't work out and they don't want to go back to Connor Williams playing guard, maybe they go ahead and move Collins over there. I personally don't see it, but that's something you might see in 2022 for sure. Well, let's jump into our Cowboys Chiefs game preview. Obviously, two teams that have a lot to play for. Really, for the Chiefs, getting back on track. You saw how well they performed, especially against the Las Vegas Raiders. Meanwhile, a Cowboys team who got a bounce-back win over the Atlanta Falcons last week, looking to continue to build on that win going into this week. Let's start with what the Cowboys will be facing on defense with this Kansas City Chiefs offense. We know about the playmakers that they have with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill. It's interesting because Patrick Mahomes has seen a lot of too high safeties this year. In fact, 61% of the time he has been playing against opposing defenses, he's seen too high safeties this year. Now, the Cowboys, conversely, only play too high safeties 33% of the time, which is sixth lowest in the NFL, according to Next Gen Stats. What do you think Dan Quinn may have up his sleeve to try and somewhat slow down this Kansas City Chiefs offense on Sunday?
Yeah, KG, the great thing about Dan Quinn is he's proven that he is not married to one scheme, and if you talk to the coaches over there, they will tell you that they're a 4-3 front with a lot of sub packages. And I mean, a lot of different, we have the nickels and the dimes and stuff, but they get into their sub packages a lot different than everybody else. And so, that's the thing. if Dan Quinn feels like that the trend is going to be best for him to play two high safeties, and he can do this. I mean, he's got guys that play down. Curse has been such a big part of playing down. Wilson can play down, big part of that. But he's got a couple of guys in Hooker, and he's got a guy in Kazee that he can play too deep. And you can honestly have two smaller guys that can play back and out. And, when the ball goes to the sideline and stuff, it's not as physical and big as a group that they normally play with those safeties down. But at least it gives you some looks of guys. Hooker can cover, KZ can cover, and probably better coverage than what you're going to see from Curse or Wilson for that regard, or even Keanu O'Neal, who plays down in that linebacker role as a safety. So I kind of feel, that I think one of the best junk defenders on this team, and I say junk defender in a nice way, is really Jordan Lewis. I think Jordan Lewis is a good junk defender. When you've seen him cover Kamara, you've seen him cover Pitts, you've seen him play in the slot, and as we talked about last week, that slot player has to defend the whole field. Well, what do the Chiefs have? They have Travis Kelce, who plays all over the field. He plays wing. He plays tight end. He plays wide. He plays all these places. So you're kind of like, there's your junk defender right there. There's your guy that can maybe take, Lewis can maybe take Kelce. You could probably throw Curse at him. I just think you have to mix it up. I just don't let these guys off the line of scrimmage. I want to see if these officials, what kind of game they're going to call. I'm up on Hill, Hardman, Pringle. I'm banging all those guys. I am not letting them off the line, and I'm going to try my best to disrupt. And maybe we get a rush home. Maybe it buys you an extra second. Talking to coaches that play against the Chiefs in the AFC, they'd say, "Hey, make this guy have to hold the ball, and then make him run if he has to. He's not going to beat you. He's going to beat you moving around and making throws. But, man, if you can clog and cover and disrupt, that's how teams have had some success against Kansas City."
So it sounds like there may be opportunities where we see these corners maybe in more press coverage. Maybe
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting because that's a little bit of a gamble when you start thinking about the receivers that they have. And I'm thinking about the kind of physicality that you may have to play with against these Chiefs receivers, namely Tyreek Hill, and obviously what they have on the outside. Is this a situation where Anthony Brown, will you see a lot of him? You talked about Jordan Lewis. Will you see a lot of Anthony Brown potentially on Tyreek Hill on Sunday?
Yeah, I think that's the way. I think that Diggs is a terrible matchup for Hill.
Sure.
Because Diggs has catch-up speed. Diggs has some long speed, but Diggs doesn't have the initial quickness. I think Brown can hit, carry, run, turn, and then close. Whereas, I think Diggs is like a hit. Oh, wait, there's separation. Now I've got balls in the air. I got to rally. I got to run. I got to do all those things. So I kind of feel like, though, that you're going to see Diggs either go with Hartman, go with Pringle, go with Josh Gordon, who's ever in that, mix. And then the primary coverage on Hill is probably going to come from Brown, because he's got the time speed. He's got the quickness. They're basically like the same size. You just got to make Hill fight for that football. I think the Tennessee Titans did a really good job of watching their tape with the way they were able to play their coverage and made these Kansas City receivers have to fight for the ball.
I will say that one matchup I'm looking forward to defensively for the Cowboys against the Chiefs, how Micah Parsons matches up against a guy like Austin Riley potentially. Sure. Can Micah Parsons find his way home like the way he's been doing over the last couple of games and getting after the quarterback, and how the Kansas City Chiefs look at a guy in Parsons who can do a lot of different things on the field and have to account for him, especially when it comes to getting after the quarterback on Sunday. I think that'll be pretty fun to watch Micah Parsons move around and see what he does against this Chiefs offensive line on Sunday.
Yeah.
Speaking of offense, let's move to the other side of the ball. this Dallas Cowboys offense going up against this Kansas City Chiefs defense, which is interesting because Chris Jones has been moved back into the interior where he's been much better throughout his career. The human mark, I like to call him, Daniel Sorensen. They've kind of removed him from the equation a little bit. And then the acquisition of Melvin Ingram has helped them generate a little bit of a pass rush. It's still a Chiefs team that's only second fewest sacks in the National Football League this year. How does this Cowboys offense go about attacking Steve Spagnuolo's defense on Sunday afternoon?
Yeah, I think I think you're up to it. It's interesting because the Cowboys they're going to face a couple of their former guys with Anthony Hitchens at linebacker and then Ward at corner. So here's a guy. I mean, they made the trade with Ward. They tried to get offensive line help way back in the couple of years. When I say way back in the day, a couple of years ago, and it just didn't work out for him. So the Chiefs ended up with Ward, and he's been a nice starter for them. And I think the thing, if I'm Kellen Moore, and again, I'm not interested in running the ball all the time, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do with this Kansas City front seven. They do a great job of moving in a direction and trying to kind of beat you to where the ball is going to go. I think this is going to be a big game for Tony Pollard. I think this is get the Chiefs to move as a front. And as they're moving, then you turn and wall them off, because I could see Pollard taking this ball front side, either right or left. And as the Chiefs are moving to try and defend, that ball comes back behind the center or in a hole behind. And now you've got all these bodies moving one way. They don't redirect all that well coming back. So hit them on those plays, get them moving, and then bring the ball backside to them and then go from there. I think that's where the Cowboys are going to have some success running the football. I do like Zeke running it, but I'll say this. I just think that Tony Pollard, that would be my X factor player of the game. If you want to talk about KG, I think he's the guy that can his speed, his quickness, he can take advantage of a Kansas City front that really, really wants to move and get in position. He can make that backside cut that can allow them to get some big plays. So, that running the ball, I think, is going to be important that way. We'll see if Kansas City can, in fact, cover. We'll see if Fenton can make coverage. We'll see if Tyrann Mathieu, when he has to cover, Tyrann Mathieu will get a little lost in coverage sometimes. His eyes kind of drift away from his guy. Does that mean that Dalton Schultz will have an opportunity, or anybody in the slot that Tyrann Mathieu plays? I think you could kind of wear him out, because I do think his attention drifts. And so, you can take advantage of him. We'll see what happens with Fenton, like I said, with Ward and with Snead as well. You get protection, you can make some plays on these guys. And you mentioned Daniel Sorensen's out. That's about Juan Thornhill being in there. I've always liked Juan Thornhill as a player, but I think that if you get the protection, you can make some passes on these guys. But I'll tell you what, I do like the Cowboys running the ball against this crew. I think Tennessee gave me an idea that you can do that. And I think the Cowboys wouldn't be surprised if, like I say, Pollard has a big game and also Zeke helps out as well.
A little bit of misdirection plays, some natural cutbacks, and do some things with Tony Pollard. I love that, because getting him out on the edge and being able to make some cuts and make some moves, I love that idea in the running game for the Cowboys. And obviously, protection is going to be key in this game, obviously, with a new left guard in the mix now this week. How he handles himself will be fun to watch. But I get the feeling, Bryan, that this game could turn into a track meet fairly quickly between these two teams, while the entertainment value may be there because of the quarterback play that we'll see, which we'll touch on now, as you mentioned, with our X factors of the game, Tony Pollard already being one. Give me your quick thoughts on Patrick Mahomes versus Dak Prescott, and what you see and how this game could play out by the way that these two quarterbacks could dictate how they exploit matchups in this game based on what their offenses do for them.
You got to love the toughness of Dak Prescott. You have to love the playmaking ability of Mahomes. You have to like the way that Dak will protect the football. You have to be worried that Mahomes won't protect the football. This game could very well come down to one team has 3 turnovers, the other has 2. It could be a +1 either way. And that +1 could be the difference in this football game. I just kind of feel like that, Kansas City is going to see that Ezekiel got the ball hammered out of his hands last week. They're going to try and hammer the ball again. Mahomes, when he's pressured, he's going to throw passes that are kind of like, well, he's going backwards. He's sacked. He's trying to get rid of the ball. You have to be ready. I mean, Dak will protect the football. I think Mahomes will give you the ball. Zeke, can't give you the ball. This is going to come down to, we always talk about the track meet game, and I'm always like thinking, this could be one of those games where Kansas City really doesn't run the football, but they have to look at what Denver did and think, my gosh, we've got a couple of physical backs. We've got backs, and they're getting Clyde, they're getting Edwards-Helaire back. I mean, he's had some problems holding on the ball. You never know about that, but they're getting him. They got him and Williams and Gore and McKinnon. I mean, they've got guys that can carry the ball. I don't know if you're the Chiefs, why you wouldn't try to run the ball. I mean, you might not be able to,
sure,
but I don't know why you don't try. And so to me, this could be one of those games where both teams are feeling the other out of like, okay, we're not going to expose the quarterbacks. We're going to make this a game about who's better up front. I think the Cowboys right now are better than Kansas City up front. And, the Cowboys, both teams really want to play keep away. I mean, it's cliche to say, but Kansas City doesn't want Dallas to have the ball, and Dallas doesn't want Kansas City to have the ball. So however you come about that, I think that's the real key. Again, an AFC coach told me, he's like, listen, he goes, you almost have to be ready to score points, but you also want to play keep away from these guys, because of it looked like to me that they got a little bit on track last week with that.
Fascinating coordinator matchup in this game on both sides. Yeah. Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, of course, with the Cowboys. Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs. Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. Meanwhile, of course, Dan Quinn for the Dallas Cowboys. Should be a fun chess match between those 4 gentlemen on Sunday. Well, that gets us to the end of our show, and obviously we've gone through our game preview, our X factors, what we feel in this game. How are you feeling prediction-wise about this game? Obviously, a marquee game in the National Football League for a lot of folks. This is going to be America's Game of the Week on Fox. One of the, if not the most watched game this season, given the star power on both of these teams. And for a lot of folks, I think, Bryan, who watch and cover this Cowboys team, maybe feel like this is a quote-unquote measuring stick game. That's been a buzzword or phrase that's been used a lot this week for this team. Ultimately, how did the Cowboys walk into Arrowhead and potentially walk out with a win against a very potent Kansas City Chiefs offense looking to continue their own momentum, quote unquote, that they've built over the last 3 games for themselves?
Yeah, I think it's all about limiting possessions for the Chiefs offense. And, if you can make it which team can play better on defense. This is if you get 8 opportunities and you start to get stops. You get back-to-back stops. I mean, a second half stop. I'll say this though. Dallas's special teams, heck, they're damn blocking punts. You got a crazy coordinator that might fake something. I'll say this, Dave Toub on the other side, he's been with Andy Reid for a long time. He's a crazy coordinator too. So this thing can come down to stealing a possession and getting an extra stop. That extra possession could get you 7 points. It could be the difference of the game. The extra stop can maybe get you a field goal. That might be the difference. I mean, somebody gets back-to-back stops, especially in the second half. I do feel like that the Cowboys, at least, player for player, can match up. Kansas City's offense just scares the hell out of me. It really does. But I think Dallas has the better quarterback right now. And I think the better quarterback finds a way to win this game. I think it's going to be one of those. I think it's going to come down to a field goal. I think it's in the dead of the night of Kansas City, Missouri. they're going to get a field goal, and it's going to win this thing. It's going to be a 31-28 Dallas victory on a game-winning field goal by Zerline coming off the COVID list.
That's right. It's interesting because you talked about the special teams coordinators, can really have an effect on this game. If I'm the Cowboys, I'm playing, even though I'm the team that theoretically is better, I'm the team with the 7-2 record.
Right.
I'm going to play like the team that has nothing to lose in this game.
I agree.
I would go into Kansas City. The pressure, I think, is all on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to continue to play well. If I'm Mike McCarthy and, Kellen Moore and obviously, Bones Fossil, I play like the team that goes on the offensive. It takes the chances in this game because theoretically, I'm not supposed to be the team that walks into Arrowhead. I'm already a 2.5-point underdog. Why not we go out and be the aggressors and attack early and often in this game? I would love to see that mentality because to me, it would set a tone walking into that building and say, hey, we're not supposed to win this game theoretically. So we're going to play like the team that's got nothing to lose and go out and be aggressive and attack all day long. So I would hope that would be kind of the mentality that they take in to put pressure on the Chiefs, early on and often in this football game. Man, this is a tough one for me because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri. Got a lot of family there. They're like, hey, this is a big game. I was like, I know it's a big game. I know it's a big one. Okay. But I'm going to take the Cowboys in this one. I think this is a special team playing in a special season that really will announce to the rest of the National Football League on an even bigger stage in what will be a very highly visible football game that they have arrived as a true Super Bowl contender. I'm going to go 35-31 Cowboys in this game. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I think both teams are going to be able to find ways to score on each other. But as you mentioned, this game could come down to maybe a Trayvon Diggs pick late to maybe allow Dak Prescott to move this team down the field. We'll see. But otherwise, it should be a fantastic football game on Sunday afternoon. You can obviously listen to the game on 105 through the Fan with the Voice of America's team, Brad Sham, Babe Laufenberg, Christy Scales will be on the sidelines for your Dallas Cowboys. The game will be on Fox with Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Tom Rinaldi, and Aaron Andrews patrolling the sidelines on Fox if you prefer to watch it on television. So it should be a fascinating football game. Bryan, as always, appreciate the time. Looking forward to recapping this game on Monday. Again, you can find Bryan on Twitter at Bryan Broaddus. You can find me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. This has been another episode of the Boys Collective right here on 105 through the Fan on YouTube. Bryan, again, thank you for the time and look forward to talking to you on Monday, sir.
Sounds great, KG. Look forward to it then.
Appreciate it.